Chapter 6. A woman carries 2 large picnic baskets into the clinic. Gran hustles her straight back to the Doolittle room. The woman sets the baskets on the table, and we all crowd around for a look. Gran opens the baskets. Inside are 6 tiny collies, only a few weeks old, plus a mutt, a mixed breed. Gran gently pulls up the skin of one of the pups. It falls back into place too slowly. "Looks like they're dehydrated," explains Gran. "Let's get each pup a bed. Maggie, fill some surgical gloves with warm water so we can rest the pups on them. Brenna, roll that O2 canister over here." "Maggie," Brenna whispers. "What's O2? "Oxygen. Let me show you." I roll the small canister of oxygen to Gran. "We'll need a small mask since we're dealing with puppies here." I hook up a mask to the tubing. "See? It's easy." "For you, maybe." "Here, help me with the beds," I say to Brenna, David, and Sunita. I show them how to fill surgical gloves with warm water, tie them off, and line them on the counter. Then we cover them with towels. "Ready, Gran?" I shout. "All right," Gran says briskly. "I'll take a puppy out of the basket, look it over quickly, and hand it to Maggie. Maggie will bring it over to you. Then you stand guard over the pups. Here we go." Gran takes one of the larger pups out and hands it to me. He's shaking, just like Dinky did earlier. I carefully carry him to Brenna and set him on his warm bed. He lets out a weak whimper. Brenna stands close to the counter, her hands on either side of the puppy, protecting him and making sure he doesn't crawl away. "Next," calls Gran. I take the next patient, the mutt, to David, then return for another. As Gran hands over the pups, the owner tells us what she knows. "I found them crowded into a dirty cage at the farmer's market yesterday," she says. "They didn't have any food or water, and they were filthy. Whenever they whined, the owner yelled at them and rattled the cage until they stopped." It's the same guy who sold Shelby, Inky, and Dinky. I just know it. "Let me guess," Gran says. "He didn't give you any health information, no papers, no nothing." "He was mad I even asked questions about their health. We argued," the owner admits. "I threatened to report him to the Humane Society for abusing the dogs. It was obvious they were sick. He picked up the cage and walked away from me." "Then how did you get the puppies?" Sunita asks. "I followed him. When we got to his truck, I took out my wallet. I gave him all the cash I had. I couldn't just let him take them away." "Good for you," Brenna says. "So you rescued these puppies yesterday?" Gran asks, gently pulling the last puppy out of the basket. The owner blushes. "I know, I should have called you right away. I thought the little guys just needed a clean, warm home and some food. I was going to make an appointment this weekend, but then the shaking and the diarrhea started." "Are you going to keep all of them?" David asks. "No, I can't. I thought if I cleaned them up, I could find good homes for them." Gran hands me the last puppy. "I'm going to watch over this one." Brenna, David, and Sunita stand in a line along the counter, all carefully watching over 2 puppies each. Gran strides over to check on Sunita's collie. "This one wins first place." She puts her stethoscope against his chest. We all watch in silence, as if we're listening for the pup's heartbeat too. He's breathing fast and his lungs are congested. Gran presses her fingertips against the inside of the pup's hind leg. Pulse is fast and weak. His heart is struggling. "Maggie, take his temperature." David shifts over to watch my puppy in addition to his 2, so I can help Gran. I lift the collie's tail and insert a thermometer. I think he's too sick to notice. Gran is licking in his mouth. He's anemic. See how his gums are white? They should be pink. Her hands glide over the puppy's tiny body, checking for other clues to what is making him sick. I remove the thermometer and read it out loud. 105. "That's what we call a fever," Gran observes. Brenna is shocked. "He has a temperature of 105 degrees? I thought that could kill you." The normal temperature for a dog is between 100 and 102.5 degrees, I explain. A temperature of 105 is high, but it's not really, really high. Brenna strokes the 2 puppies in front of her. "I guess it's hard to tell just by touching them, isn't it? Is this one too hot?" "Hang on," Gran says to Brenna. "I'll be there in a second." "I heard that if a dog's nose is dry, it means he has a fever," David says. That's just an old wives' tale, Gran explains. The only way you can take a dog's temperature is to use a thermometer. Maggie, could you get me some Ringer solution? I grab a bag of clear fluid and set it where Gran can reach. He's dangerously dehydrated. These fluids will replace what he's lost from the diarrhea, Gran says, holding up the solution to a tube that leads to the pup. Hand me that syringe, Maggie. Gran points to a plastic tube with a needle on one end and a plunger on the other. I hand it to her, carefully. She fills it with medicine, then gently but swiftly inserts the needle into the pup's foreleg. This is an antibiotic to help fight the infection, she explains, pushing down on the plunger. Next! I push the instrument cart behind Gran as she walks down to where David is standing and examines the mutt. I bet the mother of these puppies is sick too, I say. Plus, the guy at the farmer's market was selling different breeds, collies and labs. It's a puppy mill, Gran. I know it. We've got to do something. What's a puppy mill? David asks. Gran draws a vial of blood from the mutt. A puppy mill is a place where dogs are bred in unhealthy conditions. Puppy mills are illegal and unethical. The people who run them spend as little as possible to raise the pups so they can make a profit when they sell them. They're horrible places for dogs, run by people who care only about money. My blood starts to boil just listening to Gran. Who could do such a thing? We have to shut it down and rescue the other dogs, Brenna says, joining my cause. I wish I had the time, Brenna, Gran says, giving the mutt an injection of antibiotics. I'll call the animal shelter and tell them what we have here. They probably don't have enough staff to search for the puppy mill owner, but they can watch for other pups. David cranes his neck to see what Gran is doing. He loses his balance and bumps into the instrument cart. Everything crashes to the ground. The noise startles the puppies, and a few of them yip. Everybody stares at David. Sorry, he says with a shrug. I'll try to be more careful. Great. Now I'll have to sterilize those instruments again. I quickly get Gran a new instrument pack and pick up the mess on the floor. Maggie, will you look at my puppies? Brenna asks. They're fine, I assure her. See, their chests are moving up and down, and they're warm enough. You're doing a great job. I look over at Sunita. Her eyes are huge. Oh my, she gasps. Don't faint, Brenna commands. Nobody has a free hand to catch you. I won't faint, Sunita says, but one of my puppies just had diarrhea, and there's a lot of blood in it. I grab some towels and help clean Sunita's puppy. Yuck, said David. He leans down to the puppies he's watching. Don't you do that, okay? Promise? Maggie, we're going to need fecal samples, says Gran. That means I should save the messy towels from Sunita's pup so Gran can study the feces under a microscope for germs. They can't die from this, can they? Asks David. Yes, they can, I say. Oh, gee. David tilts his head so his puppies can see him better. No dying, got that? No pooping, no dying. Maggie, can you check my pups again? Brenna asks. I bounce from dog to dog, from kid to kid. Gran works to stabilize the patients. Sunita, Brenna, and David concentrate on the little chests in front of them. The owner stands in the corner watching our every move. It feels like time is frozen. I am totally focused. Dr. Mack, Brenna calls suddenly. Gran and I rush over to see what's wrong. One of the collies is shaking violently. Gran listens to the puppy's heartbeat, then calls for the oxygen mask. But before I can get to her, the puppy goes completely still. Gran feels for a pulse, then closes her eyes. She didn't find one. I'm sorry, she says. There was nothing we could have done to save him. The infection was too strong. Tears cloud my eyes and my stomach drops to my shoes. Sunita and David look at the floor. Brenna holds her breath. Poor pup. He had such a short life. I wonder how many others are... I can't think about it now. I have to help Gran. I sniff and wipe my nose on my sleeve. Can I take him home to bury him? The owner asks. Gran nods. I wrap the tiny collie in a clean towel and hand him over. He's still but peaceful. All right, deep breath, everybody, Gran commands. It's hard when animals die, but we're all doing our best. If any of you want to leave, you can. I'll understand. I'm not leaving, Brenna declares. I'm here to help. I can't leave, said David. These guys need me. The puppies, I mean, not you guys. I mean, you girls, he stutters. You know what I mean. We all turn to Sunita. She's crouched over her messy collie, her hand resting gently on its back. She looks up. He's hardly breathing, Dr. Mack. Gran wheels the oxygen canister over. She turns it on, slips the oxygen mask over his snout, then listens with her stethoscope. She gives his chest a gentle push. Come on, she mutters. You can do it. Another push. The collie takes a little breath, then a deeper one. That's it, nice and easy. We all relax. He's going to make it. Once all the puppies have been examined and treated, Gran and I move them to a special oxygen cage in the recovery room, where it will be easier for them to breathe. Then we all stand together, eyes glued on our patients. It's like when people crowd around the windows in the maternity ward. We feel connected to these dogs. Our moment of silence ends when the front door slams shut. We hear whistling. Dr. Gabe is back, I explain. He works here with Gran and me. He's the associate veterinarian. And he'll take over from here, Gran interrupts. I am officially relieving all of you from your duties. All our patients need now is some peace and quiet. Gabe and I will take good care of them, don't you worry. I wait for her to thank the others and say they can go home now. They were helpful, but it feels kind of weird to have all these kids around. But then Gran says, Maggie, take them into the kitchen for a snack. I'm sure everyone's hungry.